Okay, for those of you who are still here or have come back, you get a special prize. I think it's kind of what they call the graveyard slot in a way, the sort of end of the afternoon, although I think I'm followed by another speaker, so I guess I have half an hour, yes? Just checking. Okay, and maybe some minutes at the end for questions. I'm going to juggle both operating the laptop, reading my notes, and holding a microphone. But, you know, we all multitask in our lives, so I will start now. So bear with me if I have any technical challenges. So my name is Ros Rigby. I'm British, as my accent probably reveals. I think I'm the only UK person here, actually, which is great. Oh, it's fine. Interesting. And I'm currently what's called president of the Europe Jazz Network. That is like the chair of the board, and you can't be on the board of the Europe Jazz Network unless you are a member of the Europe Jazz Network. And to be a member of the Europe Jazz Network, you need to be an active presenter of jazz. So what I'm saying is everybody involved is active and does things. It's not a kind of honorary thing for someone who's just kind of good at speaking or, you know, being on a committee. You've got to actually be able to do the stuff. And I also program an annual jazz festival coming into its 14th edition in Gateshead in the northeast of England near Newcastle upon Tyne. Bogdan Benigar, who was here on the panel just now, is also a board member and an old colleague and friend who I first met on the Womex panel many years ago. So thank you for inviting me to speak here and to share a little bit about the history of a network that seems to work. So I think in terms of kind of what we've been talking about today, what I'm hoping is that you might find some useful pointers about why something has worked, because forming a network is a relatively easy thing. Actually keeping it going for 30 years is not so easy, and I think there are, you know, inevitably questions about why it is carried on. So this year, when we had our conference, as Bogdan mentioned, in Ljubljana, we celebrated 30 years, and we had a special cake, and we were all very happy about it. It was formed back in 1987, as the mass will tell you, by some key individuals from Italy. Filippo Bianchi, a jazz promoter and activist, Francesco Martinelli, a very respected jazz academic and archivist, along with Giambattista Toffoni, who is now actually our network manager for EJN. And they formed it legally at that time. Other people involved on that day were Huub van Riel, who until very recently ran the BIM House Centre in Amsterdam, John Cumming from Serious Promoters in London, and now promoting London Jazz Festival, and others. All of these are still involved in EJN, which says something about the strength of the network, i.e. they still want to be part of it. And it is very much about friendship, common interests, a passion for the music, and its importance as a positive force in the world. So in those days, there were only in the region of 20 to 30 members. But over the 30 years, it's grown to now 120 member organizations from 35 countries, primarily across Europe, and we interpret Europe fairly broadly, so we include Azerbaijan in that and so on, but also other countries such as Israel, and actually I was telling Becca, most recently Australia, which is pretty much as far from the landmass of Europe as you can get. The Australian Music Centre have joined because they want to make more contact with jazz and creative music in Europe, and we're pleased to have them. But joining is not automatic. You have to show that you have existed already for 3 years, that you are really committed to programming a good quality program of jazz, which will include some European jazz. It's not saying it all has to be European, but if you didn't know European jazz at all, I think there would be a question. The membership includes a whole range of clubs, festivals, venues, and also national organizations that support jazz and other music, so large and small. From the North Sea Jazz Festival, and currently in Rotterdam, one of the largest in Europe, but also to clubs like Unterfahrt in Munich, which the capacity of the venue, probably not even 200, but they program jazz every single day of the year. Apart, interestingly, from Good Friday, they do program on Christmas Day, and apparently it's very popular. So there is real difference in scale, but interestingly, no difference, I think, and I hope I'm not just being an optimist about this, in kind of respect. There isn't a kind of hierarchical feel about, well, you're a big festival, so we can't really talk to you. It's an even playing field. So this network has survived and grown over the last 30 years. How has this happened? I mean, a recent academic study, that this is a quote from, talks about the effectiveness of networks, but networks only work in terms of what people are putting into it and their commitment to it and their commitment to working on it. Just setting something up, even if you get European funding, and calling it a great idea to have this network, if people aren't really into it and expect someone else to do all the work, it's not going to survive. So I guess the secret with EJN is about doing stuff, not just coming together every so often and kind of talking about the problems and what does the future hold, and is it all doomed or whatever. It's actually about doing projects and so on. And over the years, the network has had various forms of funding, a lot from the European Union, through its different programs, Kaleidoscope, the Culture Programme, and now Creative Europe. But then also there have been years where they haven't had that funding, and members, say particularly from Norway, which as many of you will know is very well funded for cultural projects, France and others have been able to bring resources to the table. A significant project in the early days was something called European Jazz Odyssey, which was funded through a Culture 2000 grant, or the earlier days, which was kind of a touring collaborative artistic project. But as well as doing this, I think increasingly the network felt it wanted really to think about its meaning and the meaning of our music beyond just doing it because we love it. And in 2004, at our General Assembly in Budapest that year, we adopted a manifesto stating clearly our commitment to jazz's role in creating a healthy society. And I think this was quite an important move forward. It's not just about the music, it's about the impact of the music on society. So, why do people join? As the slide shows, to cooperate, to work together, to share information and ideas, to advocate. The first tranche of kind of more recent European funding under the Creative Programme supported a whole range of projects in addition to our annual gathering. So, just to pick one of these, Take the Green Train was our first really serious look at how our music and our organisations address the question of environmental sustainability. And on this we worked with a UK-based organisation who work quite a lot internationally called Julie's Bicycle. I don't know if any of you have come across them, who have created quite a lot of tools that organisations can use to measure their environmental impact, their energy use, this, that and the other. They've also invented something called the Green Rider, which venues can adopt but also encourage artists to adopt, that they will not ask for ridiculous amounts of catering, that they will be happy to have. For example, in some cases, venues say it's going to be all vegetarian, and so on and so forth. And one of the things we looked at, being very practical, was the whole question of water. So 20 years ago, 30 years ago, venues weren't full of bottles of water, but now everybody demands bottles of water. And we throw, as all of you who present gigs know, we throw an awful lot of that water away. Half, the artist takes a gulp before they go on stage and then you throw it away. So just as an expression of that, in our gift bag, in our bag at the last conference, everybody got their Take the Green Train bottle, and here it is. And it's become a bit of a thing now. People are taking pictures of themselves. Martino is supposed to be taking a picture of me now, but somebody else is, all over Europe with their bottle to show that their bottle is going on a journey. So just as an expression of our concern for the whole issue about use of bottled water in venues, and trying to persuade, and some artists will do it and are starting to do it, particularly if you just don't provide the plastic bottles of water, that they will adopt this. So Take the Green Train was really looking at this issue. Other projects, Jazz for Young People has been a really kind of major concern. We were just going to do a one-year project, but it extended for 3 years, and we're going to carry it on into our next programme, looking particularly at the development of really high-quality shows for families and children. There's been some very interesting work in Norway, not just kind of putting some artists together to make a family show, but really analysing what they're doing and getting them to work again on how they engage young people, not talking too much, in fact, not using language at all, but just using sound and so on. So some really interesting work there. We're also very keen on research, and among our program was a big research initiative called Strength in Numbers, which we've updated since then on just the scale of the jazz and creative music industry across Europe. And what we found out from that recently is that although public funding has gone down, actually activity has, if anything, increased. And that's not to say that people are pleased that public funding has gone down, but it shows the robustness and the keenness of the scene to keep working. We also introduced a few years ago the EJN Award for Adventurous Programming, and our emphasis is always on the adventurous, with the first award back in 2012 going to the Irish-based 12 Points Festival, which focuses just on emerging artists across this range of music. It's run from Dublin. It happens in Dublin in Ireland 1 year and then goes to wherever it is. It was in Aarhus in Denmark earlier this year, sometimes San Sebastian, other venues. And we've all seen some great artists through that program. Since then, the award's also gone to Jazz Agosto in Lisbon in Portugal, the BIM House venue in Amsterdam, Murs Festival in Germany, Manchester Jazz Festival, and most recently, Tampere Jazz Happening. And this is just an annual recognition from our membership and other journalists and so on of really interesting work. On a slightly light-hearted note, I mean, it's not a cash prize, but there's been a bit of a theme to do with EJN, to do with wine. I don't know if it's anything to do with the Italian origins of the whole project, but there's a lot of wine expertise around, and so we always produce a special bottle with a special label, and they get a whole crate, and that seems to keep everybody happy. Concern for diversity, both in what we present on our stages and in our audiences, has been a topic for discussion among the Nordic countries for quite a long time, but more recently, more broadly, and I was very interested to hear about other efforts, particularly on gender in Australia and elsewhere, looking at this. And the Jazz Balance website, which was produced by our colleagues, I think, in Sweden and Norway, was kind of a start at tips and tricks on how to look at all of that. A really important project, which is coming to culmination, we hope, next year, well, we don't hope, it will, is one of the founders of EJN, Francesco Martinelli, has been supported to produce a really authoritative work on the history of jazz in Europe. And he's been working on that now for some years. Most recently, he's working with Equinox, who are a UK publisher, who've published a number of books on jazz, and it will be launched next year. It will be a big volume. I think it's 600 and something pages. We've commissioned 40 writers from all over Europe, including Poland, obviously, and others. And then it's taken some kind of themes that cross countries, things like, you know, the influence of sort of hot club type music, different things, but kind of trying to address the fact that some histories of jazz in Europe are very much framed around what happened in terms of American influence on jazz in Europe, which obviously is a very important part of it, but actually it's a much more complex story than that. So we're all really, really excited about this, and Francesco has put in an amazing amount of work. Over recent years, the whole issue of migration, and clearly everyone knows why, has been of a growing concern. And a few years ago, we supported a project, a sort of action research artistic project called Yolda, led by Wim Babbes from the Handelbers Art Centre in Ghent, bringing together musicians from Belgium with musicians from Turkey, Hungary, and elsewhere. I mean, there's a long relationship in migration from Turkey to Belgium. Just looking at the whole question of how you collaborate across genres and across borders. We all know that throwing musicians together doesn't necessarily make a good project, and there's a lot of learning in that. So EJN is about benefiting from other people's experiments and learning. And another project called Melting Pot also has brought together younger artists from, I think, some from Poland, some from Germany and elsewhere, that have been experimenting again with how you collaborate best. But finally, yes, our big event of the year is our annual gathering. Now, this used to be just the General Assembly of our members, and I think this is a kind of tip for anyone who's involved in a network. what we do about the membership fee is, after a lot of discussion and questioning of this, everybody pays the same, large or small. So everybody pays €1,000 a year to join for their organisation. There isn't a scale of kind of, big ones pay a huge amount and other ones pay very little. We feel that this is a good indication of commitment and it keeps it simple, but they get probably about half of that back because we cover up €300 of their travel to the conference. We travel 2 or I think now even 3 nights of their accommodation, and there's a certain amount of free meals, and they get all the showcase program and their registration. This means that they nearly all come. And this is really important because there are a lot of networks where actually, because an organization's travel budget has been cut or whatever, that they can't afford to come anymore, so they don't join in. And I think this is a key to why our annual gatherings have been really accessible. These in recent years have been held all over Europe, sometimes more than once actually. Glasgow, Istanbul, Bari, and when Marco was telling us about, I knew he would say it was Pugliasaz because Pugliasaz have given us so much support as well. So we had a gathering in Bari, Trondheim, Helsinki, Budapest twice, I think Istanbul twice actually, Wrocław 2 years ago, I can pronounce it now, and Ljubljana last year, and more. A new development which we started in 2014 was quite there were a lot of questions asked about it, but it was opening up the conference beyond our membership to a wider constituency of people involved in the industry. So agents, managers, some individual artists. And going back to the label discussion, I think we would really like to see labels there as well. Controversial move to some who felt, oh God, I'm going to be pestered by agents now day and night, and I get enough of that jazz I heard or whatever. But actually we have a kind of protocol with the agents who come that it's about us discussing together what's happening in this music. Keep your hard sell to other contexts. And those that come and continue to come, I think, actually do find it kind of more relaxing and more profitable in a way, because it's meetings of equals and people having a chance really just to talk about what's happening. So we now call this the European Jazz Conference, as was said, and it's organised in collaboration with a local host who shares some of the costs and organises the showcase programme featuring artists from the host country. So last year, not our last conference, but 2016, it was at the newly opened National Forum for Music, which you will know, in Wrocław, and this year, just over a month ago, it was at Sankaro Dom, which I can also more or less now pronounce, in Ljubljana. And so Bogdan has actually been through the whole process, as did Piotr Takevich from Wrocław, of not only being a board member of EJN, but also being the host and having to raise considerable resources locally to allow it to happen. And I'm glad Bogdan said it was a really positive experience, because it was a very tiring experience for him as well and his staff, but they did a fantastic job. So I am hopefully now going to show you a short video about, this was taken in Wrocław. So this is the bit where you have to bear with me a minute. Okay.
The EJN is actually a network of doers. They get things done. There's a bunch of creative people here, so it's such a thrill to come to a place like this, a fantastic venue, meet with the membership and discuss ideas, challenges, opportunities, and to know that in a year's time we're going to be in a whole step forward and things are going to be achieved.
The gathering of so many people, like-minded people from all over the world, caring about jazz, caring about music, and trying to change the world in this small way.
It's always refreshing to to meet people who are doing similar things than you, and you saw differences and you say, oh, what a good idea, oh, maybe I could do this, or be better in this matter.
Lack of time, and I want to talk a bit more about the future. When I and the staff were at WOMEX in Santiago de Compostela last year, we actually spent quite a lot of our time working on the application for the new phase of funding, which is 4 years from Creative Europe, from 2017 to 2021. And luckily we were successful, which wasn't guaranteed, and we found that out, I think, in May. So that program started with a conference, as you heard, in Ljubljana. And we take some of the same activities forward that we started in the years before, but also include some new things. And one of the new things, which under this list is called We Insist, Social Inclusion Through Music, is really looking at the real impact of music in our communities. We can all do the odd workshop and think we've changed somebody's life, and maybe we have changed 1 or 2 people's lives, but actually to have a long-term impact is a more complex matter. There's some great work been going on in the suburbs of Paris through the Banlieue Bleue Festival, and the Dynamo, the venue there in Pantin, outside the centre of Paris. And we're going to use that as a bit of a case study which they want to do to really open up, looking at what have we achieved, what haven't we achieved, how can other people learn from this. So we're really going to be looking at that over the next few years. And we're also going to develop a special award for jazz in the community alongside the Adventurous Programming Award. We also are developing further our website, and I don't have time really to go online and show it to you now, but if you just Google Europe Jazz Network, you'll find it, to have separate sections which are special places for all these different projects, some areas that people can use to explore things that are touring and how they can join in with it. And I just wanted to say something about our virtual existence, because our team aren't in an office anywhere in Italy. 2 of them are in La Marche area, but actually are 35 kilometers apart, and one of them is near Venice. It wouldn't really matter if they were in different countries. It is a virtual office. The way it works is we have really high levels of skill in that team at developing shared tools, and it's all using free source software. And I'm not an expert on all of that. But, you know, the minute you talk to one of them about something, it's in a task management system, and the other person knows that it's a job to do, and they are on a daily basis in touch with each other. This, of course, is a very green way of working. It's also a very cost-efficient way of working. But I think it's not automatically something that works. I think you have to work at it. And I'm sure our team, led by Giambattista, who I say will be happy to talk to anyone about this, about how to make it work. Originally, we just had Giambattista, then we had Giambattista and a part-time coordinator. She's now full-time. And knowing that we had funding, we were able to appoint a communications manager, who happens also to be Italian, but might not have been, who helped prepare this for me today. And having that has been absolutely key to moving forward, and particularly with the development of the website. So we're also more broadly involved in discussions that some of you may be aware of, and you know, maybe we can chat afterwards about this, with the European Union about the development of a special funding stream just for music starting from 2021. And they have a thing called Music Moves Europe under discussion at the moment, and they meet fairly regularly. It's called the AB because the Ancienne Belgique in Brussels was kind of one of the key venues, and so on. And this has been mainly people involved in the larger pop festivals, things like Spotify and YouTube and so on. Some of you may or may not have been involved. And we have been kind of lucky enough, or have put our foot in the door a little bit to say, hang on a minute, we need the more kind of creative, not that those areas are creative, but the more niche areas of music, but areas that are particularly involved in looking at jazz with young people and music in the community and so on, to be part of this as well. And so we are now involved in this. It sounds like a great idea to have a special stream just for music, but we want to make sure that it doesn't end up being, you know, the danger is what you wish for, that actually it is then in some ways more limiting than when they had a really wide open scheme that you could apply for. So this is very important to us, and we're also working with other organisations like the European Music Council in particular, who've developed their own European agenda for music, and the International Music Council, who have developed something called the 5 music rights, which is very much to do with rights of artists and rights of young people and so on, to make sure that we're all singing from the same song sheet, if you like. So as well as everything that we do ourselves at our conference or our activities, we're looking out, and in fact our stand at Womex, which I think is 265, is just next to the European Music Council and International Music Council stand, and we'll be having some meetings with them while we're here. Right, have I? Okay, yes, and so we've talked about that, I think. So just to say in conclusion, we do have some Polish members, but we don't have all that many. And if any of you in the room feel that this area of music is kind of enough part of your lives that you're interested in applying to join, the information is on the EJN website. But if some of you more broadly would just be interested in coming to a conference or trying it out, our next conference is in Lisbon, beautiful city, in the middle of September. I think it's around the 16th, something like that. It'll be on the website. Working in conjunction with a fantastic venue and also a local festival promoter and others in Portugal. And we don't have a huge membership from the south of Europe, so we're very happy that Lisbon are welcoming us next year. So if any of you are interested in just coming along, that will be advertised. I mean, it's public knowledge now that it's going there, but registration will be open, I guess, around spring next year. But the dates will be on the EJN website, and I do urge you to look at that and think about coming, because broadening the discussion is really valuable to us. So I guess I don't know how long that was. Was it half an hour? Was it spot on? Okay, I'm used to running gigs, so yeah, should be okay. Do you want me to take questions or not? Yeah, okay. Any questions? Stunned silence. Okay, Bogdan, would you like to comment at all on what I've said from the perspective of a member much longer than I have been?
Well, Am I?
Yeah, a bit longer, I think, yeah.
Well, for me, it was very useful to be part of Europe Jazz Network because it's a quite serious network, I must say. The serious network, which means that you are actually updated and served with information you need to be active member of the network. I don't believe in passive networking. I don't, well, people who are passive in being network, it's okay, but it's kind of waste of time for me. So I really would like to encourage people who want to develop, to get new ideas, to meet people who have something to say and to show, and to share together and to join, because it's really great. And it's also nice that we open up the conference, because I believe that the European Jazz Conference should be the main event for jazz in Europe, because, as I said before, the trade fair is okay, but it's hard to have also the conference and the showcases and everything. It becomes really great, really too much sometimes, and you have to choose what you are going to do at the trade fair like Womex. You have to really make a plan, or just be an observer, which doesn't make sense if you spend so much money. But European Jazz Conference is much more easier to follow, and you can actually talk and meet everyone and get more than you expect.
Thank you. Okay, well, if I'm around, and I'm around the next few days under Womex, and do come to our stand where you can meet the team, and thank you very much.